Welcome to Highly Sensitive, Happily Married, the podcast that teaches you to not only have an easier marriage as a sensitive woman, but to have one that feels more amazing by the day. Where you'll hear relatable stories, love advice that works, and coaching on how to have a marriage where feeling upset and disconnected is a thing of the past, and where instead a sense of loving connection and even fun and lightness is the norm. I'm Hannah Brooks, highly sensitive person, love expert, and marriage coach, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you. Hello, my friend, and welcome to episode 35, and I hope this episode finds you super well today. I'm doing really well. I've just taken a little bit of time off, a little downtime. It was my birthday this past weekend, and one of the things that I've been doing in the last number of years is giving myself the gift of time alone. When I think about like feeling abundant and, the things that I just relish in my life, it's having time. It's having time to just not do anything or just do whatever I want. And so way more than anything that I could get, any tangible thing, it's having a sense of spaciousness and resting and kind of playing, doing things that I love. So I spent some time doing that. I took one day off and I spent some time on the weekend also for my actual birthday out in nature, and I'm just feeling really good now. Like, it definitely reset my system, rejuvenated me, and makes me so happy to come back and be with my family in a more intensive way and be with you and show up for you and do my work in the world. So, hey, this is just a little plug really for you to take time for yourself. It's just so good for us highly sensitive people. But that is not what I want to talk about, although I think allowing ourselves to do that does come out of what I'm going to talk about today, which is self-worth. We're going to piggyback a little bit on last episode. If you didn't listen to that, totally go listen. I'm going to kind of revisit a couple of the concepts that I talked about only ever so briefly in this episode, but I'm going to take it further. So self-worth in relationships, in love, is so foundational, so essential. And it's oftentimes where a lot of the cracks emerge in our relationships or in our success in having a relationship at all, right? Because when we don't have a solid sense of self-worth, our relationships lose their worth. They feel less rich, less valuable, less amazing, right? As we do inside of ourselves. And really, when it comes down to it, it just hurts to feel bad about ourselves, right? It hurts to feel bad about yourself. Most of you listening knows what that feels like. And it feels great to feel good about ourselves. So when we personally have low self-worth, slow self-worth, spoonerisms, when we have low self-worth, it can, just like I talked a little bit more about last week, it can show up in our relationships as a sense of neediness. Like we need something from our partner, right? Like asking, like one of the things I've heard from various clients is like this feeling compelled to ask their partner about their relationship. Like, how are you feeling about me? How are you feeling in this relationship? Like a lot of times, right? Or it can lead to, when we have low self-worth, feeling so easily hurt, feeling abandoned, feeling easily offended, feeling not loved enough, right? And as we talked about more in depth last time, it can show up as trying to control our partner to feel better about ourselves, to feel loved, to feel valuable, right? And this leads to all sorts of power struggles. In fact, so many of the power struggles that I see in marriages and relationships come from, in part, from this. It can also show up as being like you being critical. Like if you have low self-worth, it can show up as you being critical of others. I'm not going to say why right now, but trust me on this one. I see it all the time. Defensiveness. It can show up as defensiveness, right? Needing to prove yourself in one way or another, needing to defend yourself to prove that you're this way or that way or good, right? It can lead to lashing out. It can lead to hiding parts of you. I see that a lot, like what I've called authenticity inhibition, right? It can lead to not loving others well and so much more. Like I think about narcissism, right? It's actually like it comes out, it's sort of like a coping mechanism, not a very useful one, but it comes out of having extremely low self-worth, right? Sort of pumping yourself up, elevating yourself above others in order to compensate for feeling terrible about who you are deep down, right? So there's so much more that can, so many more problematic things that can come out of having low self-worth, right? And none of these things make your marriage, your relationship, the loving zone it can be and is meant to be. So we need to feel worthy. We need to have strong sense of worth to have a great relationship. It's kind of like that saying, like you need to love yourself to have a great relationship. I know you've all heard that, but I want to help you understand how exactly to do that, how to actually have a solid sense of self-worth. Okay? Because when you have it in your relationship, it helps remove that neediness and that insecurity so that you stop making it your partner's job to create that worth for you, like we talked about last time, right? You stop outsourcing your value. And it leads to you feeling this deep sense of internal and external safety. It leads to you not taking things so personally, and it can reduce your hurt feelings by like 90%, right? Amazing, right? And it allows you to show up and be who you want to be in your marriage and just be who you want to be in your life. It's so foundational. And the good news is feeling worthy really is so simple. It's not necessarily easy though, because of so many things. Your wiring, your primal brain, your conditioning, all sorts of things. It's really simple in that it's simply about believing you are totally 100% unequivocally worthy, and that nothing and no one can touch that or change that. Not even you. So like I said, it's not necessarily easy because a lot of things can get in the way of us actually believing this or feeling like we are totally worthy, right? If you don't think that you are good enough, you will not feel good enough. It's really that simple. So if you feel like you have a little bit of low self-worth or your self-worth could be better, it's really because of how you are thinking about yourself. Okay? It is not because you actually aren't worthy or aren't good enough. It is a function of your thinking. It is simply what you are believing. And what you are believing is definitely not always true. Let me tell you. You might be believing you aren't good enough, or you aren't worthy in some way, or you just aren't 100% worthy. It's quite likely that if you're believing that, it's because you're measuring yourself against some arbitrary, let me highlight that word, arbitrary standard of what is good enough. Okay, we do that compulsively in our world, in our culture, right? Like you're comparing yourself to someone who you think is the high standard of what good enough is, of what worthy looks like, right? And you see yourself as falling short, right? As less than. But not because you actually are less than that person, right? It's just a thought error that you're less than, that you're not as worthy as that other person, right? We have so many thought errors, so many mistakes of our mental processing, right? Our brain tells us lies, in other words, right? We have so many of these thought errors when it comes to our sense of self-worth. especially as highly sensitive people and as women, and as highly sensitive women in particular. I mean, we've taken on other people's opinions about us as being too sensitive, or, mine was like too shy. I'm supposed to talk out more, speak out more, right? Like we've absorbed so many ideas, so many thoughts, so many thought errors about what makes us worthy and what makes us not worthy. And we've bought into, so many of us highly sensitive people, this idea that we aren't quite good enough. Another reason why you might feel a little bad about yourself, or you might believe you aren't good enough, or you aren't 100% worthy, is because your brain was wired to keep you feeling not quite good enough, right? For a good reason, it was wired to keep you believing you aren't quite good enough. But not because that's true about you, that you're not good enough. So it was a biological imperative to need to try hard to do well, to do all that we could to fit in. Way back in tribal times, like at the beginning of human emergence, right? So we have this wired in, this drive to feel not quite worthy, so that we do strive to fit in, so that we work at being more acceptable, right? So we do all that it takes to belong, right? Because if we didn't do that, if we did something that led to us not belonging by others' estimation, then we would get kicked out of the tribe. And that literally meant death. So proving our worth meant life back in the day. But that is not the case anymore. Most of us don't live in that kind of society that we're going to literally be kicked out and starve to death or get attacked by another roaming band of warriors if we don't abide by all the standards of the tribe. Okay. Meaning you do not need to prove your worth to anyone. Not in our current world. You do not need to prove your worth to your husband. Not by being kind or sweet, not by being defensive, or by doing anything to get him to love you more, or to get anyone else to like you more. And the really cool and interesting thing is you actually cannot prove your worth to anyone. Because others will just have their own opinion no matter what, right? And other people are not barometers of the truth. Other people are not barometers of how worthy you are. They can think that you are lame and ridiculous, and you will still be worthy. They can adore you, still worthy. They can hate you, and still you are worthy. None of their opinions touches your worthiness. Their opinions are never what makes you worthy. We cannot outsource our worth, like I talked about last time. It is not something that is delegatable. We can't send it off to India. We can't send it off to China. Nope. We've got to have it here at home. We can't send it off to anyone else because it's only ever their thoughts, their own random stories that have them feeling that we're cool or not cool, that we're amazing or not amazing, right? And their stories, their thoughts are never facts. Their thoughts are not facts. Their love or hate of you isn't about you. It's about their thoughts. It comes from their own thoughts, right? So their thoughts have zero to do with your worth, with how worthy you are, right? Just like how much you love or hate a mango. Do you remember this episode? Just like how much you love or hate a mango has nothing to do with how lovable a mango actually is, right? Whether they love you, whether anyone else loves you, is dependent on that person, them, and the stories they tell themselves. It's not about you. It's not dependent on you and how worthy you are, how good you are, whether you're good enough. Learning this was so freeing. One of the most freeing things I've probably ever learned in my life, and I hope it is for you too. And guess what it also means for you? How worthy you feel is dependent on the stories you tell yourself about yourself. How worthy you feel is dependent on the thoughts that you have about your own self. That's amazing news, because you actually get to be in charge of what you think, of the thoughts that go through your mind, of what you believe. So, when it comes to self-worth in love, it does not come from how thin you are, or how pretty you are, or how much others think you are great, or how, clean you keep the kitchen, or how successful you are at work, or how much your partner tells you he loves you. Right? It comes from what you think about yourself, period. And you can believe anything you want to about yourself. So right now, I'm going to just offer you some thoughts that you can begin to try on like a cozy shirt, some beliefs about yourself that you can try on. And if you like how they feel, you can go buy that shirt and wear it every day and every moment. Okay, that was just like a little analogy, right? You don't even have to go buy new beliefs. You can just try them on and wear them. All right, I do want to offer one side note. It comes up a lot with clients. I want you to understand that it is not egotistical to think highly of yourself, to feel good about yourself, to believe that you are worthy. Those are it's just like egotistical and believing you are worthy are not the same thing. So many of us women, maybe all of us, have been programmed to think it's not okay to think well of ourselves, right? It makes me want to punch something. It's a beautiful thing to think well of yourself. But here's the thing. It never has to mean you think less of others. Right? In fact, the opposite is often true, that when we think well about ourselves, when we can feel more love and compassion and understanding and respect for ourselves, we can do the same for others, right? When we're feeling deeply secure and worthy and good about ourselves, we can offer all of that love and compassion and understanding and respect outwards to strangers and certainly to our beloved partner. So do not confuse self-worth and feeling good about yourself, feeling deeply good about yourself, with arrogance, narcissism, egoism, any of that stuff, okay? All right. I want to take you on a little thought journey right now that will help you perhaps be able to try on these other thoughts I'll offer in a few minutes more easily. They might fit better in a few minutes after we take this little thought journey. This is my favorite thought journey, one of them, and it's helped me so much. All right, so imagine way back to the day you were born. You came out into this world, this tiny little, beautiful, perfect, precious, innocent thing. Right? Can you imagine yourself in that moment? And maybe it helps to think about a baby you've seen who was just newborn, right? How incredibly precious. How beautiful with none of the conditioning, right? Just this beautiful essence of a little human being, right? You were so pure, so worthy, right? Don't you look at that baby and you're like, oh, this baby is just 100% worthy, right? Isn't it easy to see that in a newborn baby, right? Now, this baby is you now, right? You are still that very same baby now, just a handful of years older, maybe a few handfuls, right? You are exactly that little, perfect, worthy, precious critter. Nothing that you've done in your life took that worthiness away. Nothing you've done can take it from you, can touch that, right? All of that deliciousness, all of that worthiness, all of that goodness, it remains equally as strong as it ever did. And you can't do a darn thing about it, my friend. No, you can't. So now I offer you these beliefs. What's it like to believe this? You are and always have been perfectly lovable, perfectly worthy as a human being without trying to be. You just simply are. You can't add to that worthiness. You can't subtract from that worthiness. It's just innate and indisputable. So here are some more beliefs that you can try on that I really like. I am good. I am good. At my essence, I am that fully perfect, worthy baby. I will always be, no matter what others misunderstand about me, no matter what others' thoughts are about me. I am good enough. I am good just because I long to be good. And one of my favorites is, who am I to judge myself as unworthy because I wasn't made by me, right? You didn't make you, did you? I didn't make me. No, like some other force, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever, like somehow we were made. And who am I to judge that incredible creation? And what an amazing creation, right? This skin, these eyes that can see, these hearts that can beat, these hearts that can feel, right? We are incredible. You are incredible. And that's without your uniqueness, right? Just being a human being makes us incredible. But your uniqueness also is amazing. You are 100% worthy exactly as you are. I am 100% worthy exactly as I am. What's it feel like to get a taste of that? What's it feel like to see that? What's that free up in you? How does it change things for you to see yourself and believe this about yourself? Just take a moment and notice what that's like for you. Now, you can always choose to believe all of this on purpose. And if right now it like feels like a little bit too much, at first, right? If it's too far to go for you at first, or just kind of in conjunction alongside this, I want you to understand this. Self-kindness is the womb of self-worth, right? Just being a little bit kinder to yourself, being kinder and kinder to yourself will help you start to step into this sense of self-worth more and more. And without going any more into that, I want you to go back and listen to episode 34 if you're trying to understand that, to help you work up to these beliefs. If these beliefs that I've just offered feel a little unreachable to you, okay? Also, by the way, all of these beliefs, all of the things that I've said applies to your partner as well. He is not more and he is not less worthy than you. Even if he has some conditioning that makes him different than you, that makes him show up in ways that you don't love. He is still 100% worthy, just like you. You are both equally worthy. And I can almost hear some of you that are like, oh, but what about when he does this? And what about when he does that? Right? So that's your primal brain, and it can fight you on this all it wants. It can also be like, I'm not worthy. I'm not 100% worthy, right? Your primal brain is going to fight you. It's especially since maybe some of these beliefs are different than the ones you're used to, right? But allowing it, allowing yourself to believe your primal brain, it's really only going to keep you from feeling worthy. And in your relationship, it's only going to create division and disconnection, right? If you believe he's not as worthy as you, or if you're not as worthy as him, right? That's not going to get you closer to the love you really want to be feeling and experiencing deeply in your relationship. So instead of letting your primal brain rear its head and just kind of reject all of this, I'm just going to offer, if you have any resistance, some of you might not at all, right? But if you do feel a little resistance to it, what if you just let yourself sit with all of these new beliefs? Just let yourself marinate them. What if they're true? What if it's possible that this actually is true? What if I did believe that, right? And just notice what it's like to see yourself and your partner as 100% totally and completely worthy. What would that be like if you did? Is that something you want to move towards? Okay. And believing this, I know it might not come naturally. It didn't come naturally for me quite at first either. I have had to work at it. But the more that you choose to think this way on purpose, the more you steer your mind to remember these things and choose these thoughts on purpose, the more you will naturally believe them. And the more deeply you will feel so secure in yourself, so good about yourself, so worthy, right? And the less you'll need your man to provide that worthiness for you, like we talked about in the last episode, the less needy you'll be, right? And the more you'll let him be who he is, right? And the more he'll feel safe, therefore, and appreciated for exactly who he is, which is kind of all we all want anyway, right? And the more you'll free yourself and him up to truly, deeply enjoy each other without having to be different than you are. And that, my friend, makes for a truly amazing marriage. So enjoy sitting with all of this and be oh so very well until next time. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode and you are not yet on my email list, I highly recommend you hop on it right away. Every week I send love notes that support you in making these internal shifts in your beliefs and your perceptions, like we talked about today, that really add up over time to having profound internal changes and ultimately big changes in your marriage. To get on my email list, you can go to lifeisworthloving.com and find one of those little boxes where you can enter your name. You can be added to my email list by grabbing the 7 most powerful phrases to deepen connection, or just simply choosing the box that says, get on my email list. And I will see you in your inbox.